So, first topic. Google is huge. We all know that. Microsoft is basically dead. Facebook is dead.
What?
Twitter, great company. Google. How do we compete with Google? If somebody wanted to, they're taking over the world. They're slowly taking over the world. Quickly taking over the world, maybe. They have all our data, right?
Why do you want to compete with Google? I guess is the first question.
Yeah. So actually, to that question, I think 3 years ago, pretty much that would have been the response. So someone say, well, how do you compete with Google? And the response would have always been, well, why do we want to compete with Google? Why would we ever want to compete with Google? Google's great. That sentiment, I think, has changed a lot lately.
Why do you think that's changed?
I think people are starting to notice that maybe it's not a good thing to have everything in the same space. Like your entire digital life is kind of hooked to Google.
What are you worried Google's going to do with that?
I'm not necessarily worried Google's going to do anything with it. I mean, that is definitely worried.
Yeah. I mean, they know you order a lot of protein online.
Yeah, I mean, there was the example a little while ago of the guy whose Google account got accidentally closed, and all of a sudden he lost access to all of his data backups, all of his email, all of his pictures, social networking account. Everything kind of blows up at once when you're using the same login for everything. It's single point of failure.
Yeah, that's kind of what I get scared about. So I thought about that recently. What if, and I think we're probably maybe thinking of the same thing where maybe he accidentally posted something on Google Drive that was against the terms of service.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Maybe we don't actually know. Yeah. And the problem is one day everything, all of your docs on Drive, everything that you use could just disappear. Yeah. That's marginally scary, but what's more scary is there is no point of contact for you to actually resolve that issue.
So these big companies need better customer service.
Absolutely.
They're no longer startups.
Yeah.
They should learn how to interface with their users.
And so I think this gets into a fundamental problem. Because right now you have the Google product forums, right? Your one and only point of contact, unless you're an apps customer who pays, is...
you have to be a pretty big apps
customer to get that right. Yeah. So you have the Google product forums, and that's just downright a joke. The Google come on.
Yes.
And why is that? Because there's a fundamental difference to how Google treats this and how everyone else does. You're not Google's customer.
Yeah,
You're Google's user.
There's no financial incentive.
You're their products.
Right.
And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but you got to recognize that. So when you say, we demand customer service, bullshit, you're not the customer. So if you want to be the customer, you need to use a product that treats you like the customer, and you got to pay for it. They need to make money from you as the customer. Yeah. And Google, it actually bothers me because Google won't charge for their services. I use Google Voice. Google owns my phone number. Google could take my phone number away. That's a little scary. I wish I could pay Google money. I would give them my money
to protect
that, and to maybe hopefully get some new features out of Voice. Yep. The thing hasn't been updated in forever. If I could pay that money to actually improve their products, I would love it. But they won't take my money because that's not their business model. They're an advertising company, and that is really that makes me worried.
So what do you think a company could do besides just great customer service that actually wedges into what Google has kind of owned now? I mean, their search, they've literally become the internet for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Which is scary to me.
Well, and not only internet, they're becoming end-to-end. They're going to be your ISP from there to your device, all the way to your contact, from A to Z.
I mean, brilliant.
Wow. Yeah, brilliant, but scary.
I mean, there's that one dumb phone Nokia OS is the only operating system that has more instances in existence now than Android. Android is on more...
Simian?
Yeah, I think that's the one. Android's on more devices than Windows now. It is ridiculously widespread.
So do you think that there's any room for people to start a new search engine? I mean, I feel like we have to look at this fresh. What is Google not doing that we could...
I think Google, if anything, there has to be a slight paradigm shift before you can really compete with them. I mean, people have to start caring about the fact that everything is in one place, and they have to start caring about privacy and anonymity, et cetera, et cetera. And customer service. I think people would generally rather not pay money because risk versus reward. 1% chance you get a really shitty customer service situation,
Yeah.
for $0, or it's like insurance. People are bad at math.
I want to see the paradigm shift of finally bringing these products to us as customers, not as users. It's actually funny because like last night I was thinking about this, like, man, I would love to compete with Google, and I'm like thinking about actually ways that I could.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest, and like I almost like I want to make this my life goal to like replace a lot of these products with the biggest difference being I want to make incredible products that are great, but that you do have to pay for. And a lot of it, certainly everything can have a free edition, but I think people should pay for them. And for that reason, they can be the customer, and you can offer things like great customer support.
Yeah, and I guess the benefit has to be, it has to be so much better that it's actually worth paying for.
Right. And migrating over even.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge action to take. Right, so in startups, in apps, we look at every action as some energy required by your end user to adopt that feature or click that button or enter their credit card number in. So getting in front of a user and telling them and showing them that your product is great, and then requiring
making them do the work to move everything over.
That's typical.
There's one awesome thing, at least right now, that Google still has their APIs available.
Yeah.
So for an end user, and just my aunt or whatever who wants to migrate over to say a new platform, you can still do that automatically today. But the scary part is, will it always be like that? I mean, Google says they're committed to open data. They have data liberation, or takeout, I guess it's now called, where you can get all of your data, and they have APIs to access that. But when the new platform is available, do we still have access to those APIs? Can we start sucking their data out? Because that's the vendor lock-in, right? That when you start sucking the data out, you start sucking the monopoly out.
Yeah, and once it starts actually
getting big, they could very well cut that right off.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about Android?
Android scares me. Like the amount of just the way people talked about Microsoft in the 90s as the evil empire because Windows was everywhere, was kind of overwrought. But in a way, I see Google heading in that same kind of direction.
Right.
It's going to be so absolutely ubiquitous. And there is an argument that Google, in a way, is kind of losing control of Android, because of the way they did the licensing and it's so open. You look at, for instance, the Kindle Fire. It's an Android tablet, but it has nothing Google on it, because of the way they did the licensing. And they're trying to start locking things down a little bit, but because something's on the internet, it's there. You can't really lock it down.
They needed that license in order to bring developers on board to build a community around.
It was and device manufacturers as well.
It was a trade-off. It was a trade-off. They got the huge numbers as a result, but whether or not they're going to be able to wield it as a weapon in the future without any control of it.
So any Google killers on the horizon that you've seen? Anyone working on a startup that you think is going after that market?
I think what's really cool.
Which market? There's so
it has a bunch of products.
Right.
They're all different verticals. That's the thing about Google. Google is a company that specializes in tens of of different verticals, which is nice because when one of those products dies, as we all lament it, like Reader was obviously the biggest one.
I still miss Google Wave.
I still miss Google Wave too. Google Wave was awesome. I know Google Wave was awesome.
Google Wave would have been amazing.
It would have been mind.
Really?
And I'm nerd boxing myself in this. It would have been great for doing online tabletop RPGs.
I wasn't going there.
Playing Dungeons and Dragons.
That's fine.
Google Wave
All the
was
D&D
great for playing
fans out
Dungeons and
there.
Dragons.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it was gonna replace email, but that's anyway.
I think that needs to happen, replacing email. But we'll talk about
that's later.
That's another topic.
So when a product dies, startups can kind of bloom out of the death. And create something really compelling. So is Dig trying to replace Reader? Wasn't that their thing?
I don't know.
Right?
Is Dig still a thing?
Yeah, no. I think when Google Reader died, Dig is like, we will solve this problem.
Oh, I think I do remember that. And everyone was like, you haven't solved your own problems. And this is probably why Kevin Rose will never come on the show, even despite me pinging him on Twitter over and over and over again. I'm just kidding. Dig is amazing.
Looking forward to using Dig Reader.
Please dig this episode.
Yeah. Actually, on the URL right here, you can dig us at Reddit/r
Techendo.
dig Techendo. Yeah. Okay. So
I think the big thing with Google though is like the talk of killing Google. You can't kill Google. Google is so wide and so deep. Like it's not a company. I mean, it is a company, but it is so many different things.
It is not a market, certainly.
Yeah. You have to take them on in so many different ways. Like, I don't think you're going to kill Google. You could beat them in certain markets, but as a company as a whole, they're never going to die at this point.
So it's Google is its own beast. It's taken off. It's a mountain. It's something that startups might not be able to compete with. So why compete? Why not innovate in a new area or just build something new that people will want to use? I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is for this.
It's almost hard not to compete with Google. Like,
There's
it's easier not to compete, but at the same time,
what if you build that won't have already built?
Google's
so,
already
but if you do,
Exactly.
okay, and here's another problem: is if you do build something new and cool, Google will copy it.
Sure. Well, so Evernote, for example, Google Keep just came out recently, and while it certainly doesn't even come close to the features Evernote offers, it's Google, so it's instantly going to have 1 million users.
And it's
just
integrated
like that.
into everything.
Into Drive, it's boom there, right? So it's too bad, but I mean, there are a lot of areas. So there's one thing Google really sucks at. And this is an area where you can really innovate is market feedback. They're not listening to their users because remember, we're not really their users. Like they do somewhat, but if
I wonder even if that's a problem because people use Google as if it exists as it is and don't care sometimes.
Sure.
Even it's sometimes maybe a shitty product or search sucks.
but that's how it is.
Right. And so maybe they've looked at it and said, you know what? Why waste the money because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay. So that's the end of that one. How to compete with Google? Don't compete with Google. Be something different. Be something new. Be something awesome.